Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really central for a lot of language learners.
Yeah.
How to sound, genuinely confident and natural when you're speaking English.
Right.
For you listening, the goal is maybe finding a bit of a shortcut, not necessarily to cram more words, but to really master the rhythm, the flow, that confidence that makes conversational English sound, well, conversational.
Mm-hmm.
We're aiming to move past just textbook correct English into something that feels more real world.
And we've got quite a stack of notes here that are perfect for this. They really zero in on the mechanics of natural speech.
Okay.
The focus is on the difference between speaking with, let's say, perfect grammar and speaking with really good rhythm. We're shifting the focus completely from written language rules to spoken language.
Because they're different beasts entirely.
Fundamentally different, yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. The mission, as I see it, is to understand the sound architecture, maybe, of how native English actually sounds.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. If you've ever felt your English sounds a bit stiff, maybe staccato, like you're typing out each word, it's probably because you're missing that underlying musicality we're talking about.
And that's, I think, the big takeaway right at the start. Fluency isn't really about just speaking fast.
Right.
It's about connection. It comes from understanding the rhythm, the tone, and maybe most importantly, how we kind of blend sounds together naturally.
So we're learning how people actually talk.
Exactly. Which, often means letting go of some of those really strict rules you learn for writing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's dive into that first big hurdle then. That phrase, I want to speak like a native. What does that even mean, really? Yeah, that's a loaded one. We need to get clear on the goal.
Because it often implies you need a perfect accent, right? Like someone from London or LA or wherever.
And that's just, well, first off, it's usually unnecessary, and it can be really overwhelming.
So what should the goal be?
Speaking fluently and naturally, it absolutely doesn't mean you have to erase your own accent. Your accent is part of who you are.
What it does mean, though, is getting to a point where your speech is relaxed, you sound confident, and crucially, it has a consistent flow that's easy for the listener to follow.
So if you listen to native speakers from, I don't know, Manchester or Sydney or New York, they don't sound the same accent-wise.
Not at all.
But there's often a shared rhythm, a sort of cadence.
Exactly. They share that musicality. They're generally prioritizing efficient movement between sounds over pronouncing every single syllable perfectly clearly.
It sounds smoother. Which brings us to something pretty fundamental. Native English speech is typically stress-timed, meaning...
Meaning we don't give equal weight, equal time to every single word. Speech has a definite music, like you said, a pattern of strong stresses on important words, and then relaxing, almost rushing over the less important ones.
Okay, the grammar words and stuff.
Yeah, the function words.
Yeah.
And if you can start imitating that rhythmic pattern, your communication just immediately sounds clearer and more natural.
I like thinking about it like reading sheet music versus actually performing the song.
That's a great analogy.
Reading note by note. Technically right, maybe, but kind of dull.
Right.
But when a musician plays it, they add dynamics, pauses, connections, flow. Speech is the same.
Let's take a really simple example. Like if you say very stiffly, how, are, you, pronouncing each word fully.
Yeah, sounds kind of formal, or maybe even a bit annoyed.
Exactly. Now contrast that with the much more common, relaxed way, how are ya? How are ya? Yeah, totally different feeling, much friendlier.
And what happened there, the are you just collapsed, right? Blended into one soft little sound, yeah.
And the main stress is clearly on how.
Right. That blending, that reduction, that relaxation, that's the sound of confidence and naturalness.
So that's the fluency we're talking about for everyday life.
Pretty much, it hinges on that relaxed rhythm. Someone could speak really quickly but chop every word apart.
And it just sounds rushed, maybe hard to understand.
Yeah, frantic even. But if someone speaks smoothly, with that rhythm, even if they're speaking at a more moderate pace,
it sounds much more fluent, more controlled, easier. That signals real ease, real mastery, not speed. Okay, this is starting to make sense. So let's get into the mechanics then. How does this actually work? Our notes really zero in on two core things, rhythm and intonation, right? So rhythm, like we said, is all about stress.
Yeah.
Which words get emphasized, which ones get kind of swallowed.
And that connects to the type of word, doesn't it?
It does, directly. We basically have two categories. Content words, these carry the main meaning. Think nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs. These usually get the stress. Okay, the information carriers, exactly. Then you have function words. These are little grammar words, articles like a, the prepositions like of, to, in. Auxiliary verbs like is, are, can, pronouns like he, she, it, they provide the structure. And these are the ones that get minimized.
Generally, yes, they're
Mm.
unstressed. So the rhythm of a sentence is like jumping between the stressed content words and just gliding over the unstressed function words.
And that gliding over part, that's where the real magic or maybe the difficulty comes in. I see mentions of the schwa sound here. Ah, yes, the mighty schwa. It's absolutely key. The schwa, it sounds like, kind of like the A in about or the O in supply.
Just a very neutral, lazy vowel.
Totally.
Mm.
It's the most common sound in English, precisely because unstressed function words almost always reduce their vowel sound to the schwa.
So, like, the word for often doesn't sound like for.
Right. In a sentence like, this is for you, it's more like fray, this is fray you, or from becomes frem, can becomes friend.
Wow, okay. So mastering that weak sound is crucial for getting the rhythm right.
It's basically non-negotiable for smooth, natural English rhythm.
Okay, so if rhythm is the beat, the notes say intonation is the melody.
Yeah, that's the pitch contour, how your voice goes up and down across a sentence.
So that carries meaning too, right? Like questions going up.
Generally, yes.
Right.
A rising pitch often signals something's unfinished, like you're listing items or asking a yes-no question. A falling pitch usually signals finality, you're making a statement, giving a command, finishing your thought.
So it's like the emotional layer on top of the rhythm.
You could say that. It tells the listener how to interpret what you're saying. And when rhythm, stress, and intonation all work together smoothly.
That's when you get connected speech.
Exactly. That's the glue. It's about getting rid of those unnatural little pauses between every single word.
Like you said, avoiding that typing out word sound.
Yeah. If you force yourself to separate every word, you're making the listener work way too hard to piece it together. It should flow.
Okay, let's dig into how the sounds actually blend. The notes mention more than just the schwa. There's assimilation.
Right. Assimilation is when a sound changes slightly to become more like a neighboring sound. It just makes the transition smoother for your mouth.
Okay, example. The classic one is did you. Think about the sounds. The D at the end of did bumps right into the J sound at the start of you. Did you? Yeah, it's a bit clunky, said slowly.
Right.
But what happens naturally if those sounds combine? And you get a J sound. Did you? Did you ask him? Yeah, that feels much easier.
It is easier. Your tongue doesn't have to move as much. It's efficiency.
Driven by the physics of speaking. Okay, that makes sense. And the other one mentioned is elision.
Elision is even more extreme. It's when a sound gets dropped entirely, just disappears.
Okay, give me an example of that.
The most common one is probably the D sound in and. We almost never say the D unless we're really emphasizing the word and D.
So rock and roll becomes...
Rock and roll,
Hmm.
or fish and chips, is fish and chips. The D just vanishes.
Huh. I never consciously thought about that, but you're right.
Same with the T sound sometimes, especially at the end of words before another consonant. Like in just chilling, the T in just often gets dropped.
Just chillin'.
Exactly. If a learner is trying super hard to pronounce that D in every single and, or the T in
You're
just,
going to break up the rhythm
and
constantly.
it totally disrupts it.
Yeah.
So going back to that earlier example, what are you doing versus the natural, what you doing?
Yeah.
Let's break it down. The T at the end of what meets the Y of you, that's assimilation, giving you the chi sound. What ya then are reduces probably to just the schwa sound dre, where sometimes disappears almost completely. And you becomes ya.
Gotcha.
And then doing often drops the final G sound, another type of elision, common words, so you get doing.
What you doing? It's like layers of these mechanics making it flow.
And it's not lazy. That's important. It's linguistic optimization. It's efficient.
Okay.
Which is why you absolutely have to practice common blended phrases to contractions too as single units of sound. You got to train your mouth to say gotta go, not got, to go.
Or want to eat instead of want to eat.
Right. The to basically gets absorbed or minimized. They function like one word.
But here's a question. If you focus too much on reducing and blending, is there a risk you just end up sounding like you're mumbling or just sloppy?
That's a really important distinction to make. Mumbling usually happens when the important words, the content words, also get reduced or become unclear. Fluent, connected speech relies on strongly stressing those key content words, the nouns, verbs, adjectives. You hit those clearly. Then you efficiently reduce the function words around them.
So it's selective reduction. You choose where to put the energy.
Exactly. Clarity on the core message is still vital, but efficiency dictates how you connect things.
Got it. Okay, so we've covered the mechanics of the sound blending. Now let's shift to the texture of like real conversation, The notes talk about these small bridges or conversational connectors.
Yes. These are so important for sounding natural in interaction. We're talking about words and phrases like, you know, I mean, actually, kinda, sorta.
Things that, honestly, in formal writing class, you're told to cut out. They're seen as filler.
Right. Unnecessary fluff.
Yeah.
But in actual spoken conversation, they play really vital roles. They're doing important social work.
Okay, so what are those roles? Why do native speakers use them so much?
Well, there are a few main functions. First, they often act as softeners. They let you introduce an opinion or maybe a slight disagreement more gently.
Okay, takes the edge off.
Yeah. Second, they're time buyers. They fill those tiny pauses while your brain catches up or formulates the next thought, so you don't just have awkward silence.
Like, but maybe a bit more structured.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And third, they can be emphasis markers or ways to check if the other person is following, like adding you at the end.
Let's see how they actually change the feel. Give me a contrast. Like, if I have to give some negative feedback, the direct way, okay, direct and blunt, that idea is not good. Ouch. Okay, how would a connector help? You could say, well, that idea is kind of weak, or, I'm not sure that idea works. Signals. Okay, opinion coming, let's keep this friendly.
Right. Or sharing just a lukewarm feeling about something. Formal might be. It is not very interesting.
Yeah, a bit flat,
Yeah.
conversational. It's kind of boring. Yeah.
Kind of boring. That feels much more like sharing an observation with a friend, not delivering a judgment.
Exactly. The kind of softens boring and invites agreement, or at least understanding. It builds rapport. So using these little words actually signals confidence, because you sound comfortable enough to manage the social side of the conversation, not just the information.
I think so, yeah. It shows you understand the nuances of casual interaction. It sounds less like you're reciting prepared lines.
And the key is probably using them naturally, right? Not just throwing them in everywhere.
Definitely. It's about rhythm and pausing, too. Using them to help pace your thoughts. And learning them as whole sound units, like, is often just one quick sound, not two distinct words. Okay, so we know the why. The mechanics like schwa and simulation, and the conversational bits like connectors. Now, the big question, how do you, the listener, actually practice this stuff? Get it into your own speech, right? The practical side. Our notes really highlight two powerful techniques. The first one is fundamental, imitation.
Just straight up copying.
Pretty much. It's literally how every single one of us learned our first language, not by reading grammar rules, but by listening and copying the sound shapes of what we heard around us.
So for a learner, this means maybe turning off the subtitles sometimes when watching a movie or YouTube.
Yes. Or at least focusing way more on the audio flow than the text. Listen to vloggers, podcasts like this one. Watch interviews. Find speakers you like the sound of.
And actively try to mimic not just the words, but the rhythm, the ups and downs, the connections.
Exactly. Copy the whole melodic phrase. It's basically muscle memory training for your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords. You're teaching them the efficient movements for English sounds.
Like practicing scales on an instrument.
Kind of, yeah. Copy lines you like. Repeat them. It builds confidence because you're focusing on the sound and performance, not getting stuck in your head analyzing grammar.
And consistency is key here, right? The notes stress that.
Hugely important. Doing, say, 5 or 10 minutes of focused imitation practice every day is way more effective than trying to cram in a 2-hour session once a week.
Makes sense. Short, regular workouts build muscle better.
It reinforces the physical movements. Each repetition makes it easier for your mouth to just automatically produce that blended phrase or rhythmic pattern when you're actually talking.
Okay, so imitation is number one. What's the second technique?
The second one is shadowing. And this one can feel a bit weird at first, but it's incredibly powerful for developing real-time fluency.
Shadowing, like following closely behind.
Exactly. You listen to a speaker, and you try to repeat what they're saying almost simultaneously, like an echo that's right on their heels.
So not waiting for them to finish the sentence, but talking along with them.
Pretty much, yeah. Or maybe just a split second behind. The goal is to process the incoming sound and produce the outgoing speech immediately.
Why is that so effective?
Because it forces your brain to bypass the usual slower route of listening, translating in your head, formulating a response, and then speaking.
It breaks that translation habit.
It really does. It trains your brain and mouth to work together much more quickly, much more synchronously.
Okay, practical tips for someone wanting to try this.
Definitely use headphones. It helps you hear both the original speaker and yourself clearly. Start small, maybe shadow just one sentence at a time. Pause the audio, repeat the shadowing, until you feel you match the rhythm and intonation.
Focus on the music first, maybe even before getting every word perfect.
Yes,
Let's see
absolutely.
what I think.
Copy the volume, the pitch changes, the overall flow. Then worry about nailing every single sound.
It sounds like synchronicity training.
That's a good way to think about it.
Hmm.
When you can keep up with a speaker's rhythm without constantly falling behind, you know you're starting to activate those pathways for real-time fluency.
Yeah.
So if we take that example dialogue from before, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Not much, just chilling. That's the kind of target material for shadowing. Perfect target material. It's short, it's connected, uses natural reductions. What are you into? Chilling.
Friendly, efficient.
That's the ideal rhythm profile to imitate and shadow regularly.
Okay, great practical advice there. Before we wrap up, let's do a quick check-in, a little test for your ear based on everything we've discussed.
Yeah, let's see if you can spot the natural flow now. We'll contrast the sort of written grammatically precise form with the more common conversational reduced form. Listen for the rhythm, the ease. Right. Contrast number 1. Option A, do you want to go? Option B, want to go. Which one sounds more natural, more common in casual chat?
It's got to be B, right? Wanna go.
Definitely. Wanna is that classic reduction of want to into one smooth unit. If B sounded more natural to you, you're hewing the efficiency.
Yeah.
Okay, contrast to option A, I do not know. Option B, I don't know. Again, which one flows better?
B again, I don't know. Feels almost like one single word, doesn't it?
Exactly. The sounds just blend smoothly together. Done know. Much faster and easier than I do not know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, last one. Focusing on those connectors we talked about.
Yeah.
Option A, it is kind of late. Option B, it's kind of late. Listen to the rhythm. A, it is kind of late. 4 beats, kind of choppy.
It's kind of late. Smoother, maybe 2 main beats.
Yeah, it's kind of late. Flows much better. Uses the contraction. They use the connector kind of and links together really naturally.
So the point here is, if you consistently picked option B in those examples,
It means your ear is starting to tune in to the sound of natural English, the music of it, not just the dictionary words on a page.
you're listening for the flow, the reductions, the connections. That's a huge step.
It really is.
Yeah.
That awareness is the foundation.
All right. So let's bring this deep dive home.
Okay, quick summary. We've really explored how genuine fluency comes from mastering the music of English, the rhythm and the tone. We looked at the mechanics behind it, like the essential schwa, sound-weakening function words, and how sounds blend through things like assimilation, dija, and elision, rock and roll.
And we practice integrating those common contractions like wanna, gonna, gotta, treating them as single sound units.
And also layering in those conversational bridges,
Uh-huh.
kind of to add that natural texture and social ease.
So the final advice for you listening right now is really about that consistent practice. Keep up that maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day of focused imitation or shadowing.
Mm-hmm. Daily habits.
Remember, fluency feels like comfort. It feels like flow. It feels efficient. It's not necessarily about just speaking faster. If you focus on that rhythm,
Your English is going to sound smoother, friendlier, and definitely more confident week by week.
we really hope these insights help transform how you approach your speaking practice.
Absolutely. And to leave you with something to chew on until next time. Here's a final provocative thought. If you now really accept that spoken English fluency leans so heavily on blending sounds, on reduction, on this soft linking between words, what does that change about how you should approach learning new vocabulary? Good question.
Should you maybe prioritize listening for the musicality of a new word or phrase first? How it sounds in context, how it connects to the words around it, maybe even before you lock down its precise dictionary definition and spelling. Think about that sound architecture. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.